just before we start the message, if you would like to go and have dinner with us today at the city buffet, you can still sign up. We have about 30 or so people, and I called them and they said, yeah, if you come with 30 or 40, it'll be not a problem. So if you'd like to do that, just make your plans too and let me know. I didn't sign up yet, or go sign up because I'll be the last one out, and I'll look at, oh yes, there's going to be 34, whatever, and we'll take care of that. But before we leave, up here you'll see I've got a basket of goodies. It's our anniversary gifts. Now, let's be real. I bought them all for y'all, and I spent cheap. Okay, so it's not the gift, it's the thought that counts. But I do have some things in there. If you ever go camping, there's little nightlight things you can hang up in your tent. Some fire starters. I got some laser pointers, and I got some kazoos. I got all kinds of junk, and you're all welcome to them until they're gone. However, if you've got little kids, they're not welcome to go in and grab buckets of them. Make sure everybody can get something. Regulars, oldos, youngos, all of you, okay? Now, today, we already looked at our announcements, and there's a city buffet. If you want to know what it costs, find your little category, and that's what it costs for you to eat there. Because although we're all going to go eat together, I'm not paying. Did that last time, and that was great, and I'll do it again sometime, but not today. My wife said we don't have the money this month, okay? Then there's some birthdays and stuff there, and St. Pat's Day's coming up and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter. Now, today, our message is going to be rather short. Amen. Okay? Now, I could talk forever about this topic, because what's the topic? Ain't God good? What? Is it your birthday today? No. Now, what are we pointing at? Oh, you wanted to say something. Okay.
I just wanted to share a memory.
Okay.
30 years ago, we had our third anniversary.
Yes.
And my wife and I had just joined the church around Christmas time, something like that. So for that third anniversary, the church rented a tent, these big tents, had it outside, and we had dinner there. And then that night at church, they were all talking about, they were worried about somebody vandalizing the tent. So my wife and I, after dinner that night, went over, parked in the driveway of the store where we had our church, and we stayed there all night guarding the tent until Pastor Shell showed up in the morning, and he said, "Were you here all night?" We said yes, and I guess we took turns waking the other one up with our snoring.
Yeah. So you were the tent guarders that time.
We were the tent guarders.
Help me out here, John. The Levites, there was the Korhites and the Merarites. One of them, their job was to take care of the tent. I can't, that's off my mind, but you were one of them. Y'all can look that up in your Old Testament. There were 3 families of the Levites. Pardon? The Gershonites. The Gershonites. Yeah, they did planks and curtains. Man, by the way, that's a great study if you ever want to do it. Anyway, that's great. All right. Ain't God good? Now, can we talk about that for like ever? But today it's going to be 6 points, real short, 9 slides. I want to talk about the goodness of God in just a general way. And you can add to this all you want, because I know you can. First of all, God took care of man's need for companionship. Our social need. We're not to be alone. Now, I'm not talking about a general or a very specific case where you want to be alone. Generally speaking, we don't like to be alone. We seek companionship. And God says in Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, God said, it's not good for man to dwell alone. So did God see our need? Then what did he do? He did something about our need. He said, I will make him a helpmeet. And so he did. So did God see our need and take care of our need in our social kind of aspect? And so today, all these couple thousand years later, we still like to date and find the one we love and get married because we don't like to be alone. And it's very interesting, when God made Eve for Adam, He said, in the English you'll see, he made a helpmeet. And my wife and I often joke about this because years ago there was a Harvey Korman commercial with Tim and Harvey. They were going, you're just right. Remember that cereal commercial? It was just right. Well, the Hebrew word that is used there for help me means God made for Adam his just right, his completion. And so we see, mini me, he completes me. That's really what it said. God says, I will make the thing that completes Adam. So, in the example, it's true for you, but I'll use mine. When I met my wife, and she wasn't my wife yet, when I met her, she had everything that I needed, I didn't have. She made up for things. And I give you, my wife in my house, she keeps the books. Now, I know how to earn money and how to spend money. I don't know how to balance money. And she put me in charge of the books one time for about 6 months, and it was horrendous. So she took it back away from me. And I said, please take this. So she did. She keeps the books. And even today, I print off the little ledger sheets, and she writes them down, and she'll say, don't spend anything this week. So I can't buy your lunch today. Because I overspent. I bought stuff. So God says, I see man's need. It's not good for him to be alone. Now, stop for just a second. Why did God create us in the first place? To glorify him, yes. Fellowship. Oh, wait. God wants us to fellowship with him, which means what? God has a social need. And God says that if I want them to fellowship with me, I can't just leave Adam alone. He needs somebody too. Okay? When Jesus came to earth in human form, God in human form, what's the Bible say about that? He experienced everything that we go through so that he can understand when we go to him, he says, I know exactly what you're talking about. So God in heaven says, I want somebody to fellowship with me. Man can't dwell alone. He's not spiritual being like I am. He needs something. So God saw the need and made the need. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. Then Jesus, it says to us, but it's God, because Jesus is God, the same person. He says, let your conversation be without covetousness. Be content with what you have. Why? Why should I? How can I be content with what I have? Because he said, I'll never leave you. Now, if you read that verse in the context of chapter 13, read verse 4. I'm not going to tell you to do it right now, but see what the context of this is. But he says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. Be content. I'll always be there. So should we understand that our communal needs God knows about and takes care of? Man, God is good. He takes care of our communal needs. Number 2, God always has a complete plan for us. We look here, and the Lord showed signs and wonders, great and sore, upon Egypt, upon Pharaoh, and upon the household before your eyes. And he brought them out from thence. Why? That he might bring us in. This is Deuteronomy. It didn't get put on there. But God says, I brought you out of Egypt to bring you into something. Look at me. God takes care of your purpose, your plan, your vocation, your life. God says, I didn't save you just to sit around and stare at the wall. I didn't call you just so I could add you to a list. I brought you out so I could take you in. God's got something for you. God takes care of our need of purpose. So often today, you hear it a lot. It was stated in different ways in the past, but when people are graduating from college or whatever, and they're going to go out and get a job, one of the things that they want is, I want to know, I want to feel like I've got purpose, I've got impact. I'm not just punching the clock. And I'm sure you feel that way to some degree, but God says, wait a second. I know you need to have a sense of purpose. Let me tell you something. I saved you for a reason. I brought you out of Egyptian slavery, you Hebrews, because I got a place for you to go and I got something for you to do. And today, as we're not the Jewish people come out of slavery, but God says, hey, I've got a plan for you. I've got something for you to do. I know you need a sense of purpose. And let me tell you something. Finding your sense of purpose, the goal of your life, finding that in the plan of God will fulfill everything you ever wanted in your vocational, purpose-driven destiny. It will. I've told you the story before, the account. I went to school so I could play football and wrestle. I went to college because you're supposed to go. Then I got a job teaching school, and now I'm a pastor of a church. In hindsight, I can see God moving in all of that. At the time, I didn't know it. And I wasn't the great spiritual giant of the decade. I wasn't the next Apostle Paul. But I did, in my own stupid way, I wanted God to use me. I wanted to do what was right. I just didn't know what it was. So, Lord, what do you want me to do? Teach school. So I taught school. Move to California. I moved to California. Go to Florida. Went to Florida. Pastor of the church. Here I am. I'm as happy as a clam in the sand. If you've got ears, listen to what God is telling you, where He's directing you. Go where He says, do what He says. Understand the purpose that He's fulfilled in you. You'll be happy. You'll be content. Well, don't you ever want, no, don't. Got food, got raiment, be content. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. How can you beat that? Okay? So the second thing, God gives us a complete plan. He has got our goal, our purpose. He's fulfilled. Number 3, God will never let anybody else and their schemes stop or detour His plan. Okay. Does God have a plan for you? Say yes. Is God's plan for you different than it is for me? Yeah. Might you have different talents, different gifts, different opportunities, a different part of the game? Yours is different than everybody else's, right? Will God, if you surrender to God's will God let me ever get into your life and screw up what God's got planned for you? Never going to happen. Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 50. You know the account of Joseph. His brothers hate him. They sell him into Egypt, into slavery, right? What is Joseph's response? You thought this evil against me, but God meant it for good. Woo! Look at me. If you'll surrender to God's will, anything and everything that anybody can throw at you, God says, hang on, let me show you what the end is. This is where you're going to be. Now, my dad was a pastor. Had a church, typically on a Sunday, it was 300, 400. When I was in high school, we had a bus ministry, and it was 600 people with this 300 kids in junior church and all that kind of stuff. My dad, in 1985, my dad asked me to teach an adult Sunday school class. My Sunday school class, every Sunday for 5 years, had 110 or more in it. 5 times bigger than this church. That was my Sunday school class. Then I went to California. And then I came here. And all kinds of stuff happened in between all of that. But God says, Dave, nobody can mess up the plan I have for you. If you'll surrender to my plan. And I tell you, when I was going to leave Michigan originally, back in 2000, I was told, you don't ever want to go to Crossway. I didn't even know where Crossway was. I didn't know what they were talking about. But they said that to me. And here I am. 5-year stint in California. Here 14 years now. Does God have a plan for you? He had one for me. I didn't know what it was. But here I am. Advised not to come. But this is where God wanted me. Where does God want you? God says, I will take care of you if you'll submit to my leading, and it will always work out. Okay? So some of you, I know you're sitting there going, why didn't you listen? Okay. But Joseph said, your ideas, your motives, your desires weren't ruling the day. I talk sometimes when we talk about Haman in the book of Esther. Everything seems to be going good as long as you don't consider the fact that God is also playing in this game. When you got all your stuff, I don't know. You ain't the only person playing. Okay? As Einstein once said, God never plays dice, he'd never lose. Okay? You think you've got it all going. God says, consider the fact that I'm playing this game too, and I never lose. Trust God. Number 4, God meets the needs of the poor. God meets your financial needs. Now, come on, look at me. How many of you? I'm not talking about the greedy thing. I'm just talking. How many of you always? Do you know what money? How it works? You ever get money and say, "What's this for?" For the most part, how many of you would agree that when you get money, there's always somewhere, someone, somebody, somehow they're going to get it from you? Does God know that in one way or the other, not just in money now, but also in talent, in personality, in demeanor, you don't have everything that could be had. You might not sing so well. You don't really like getting up and talking in front of people. I'm not a good mechanic at all. Okay? I walk into a hardware store and I'm lost. Take me to a gun store and I'm happy, But I think Michael Diatalevi, you start talking about guns, and he'll tell you who made it, how many they made that year, what size the firing pin is, and how many ounces. I'm not that. When I was in high school, Louis Pope knew every baseball team from the 50s on to the 70s. He knew their starting lineups. He knew their batting averages. He knew the pitcher's ERA. It's a boring game. Why do you know so much about it? But he knew everything. But you got to admit, somewhere in your life, some aspect of your life, you know that there's something that, I wish I had a little more of that. I wish I was a little better at that. That's what it means when it says poor. It's not talking just about finances only, but any area that you lack something in. Okay? But look what the Bible tells us in the book of Psalms, 68, verse 9 and 10. Thou, O God, did send the plentiful rain, and it was because, whereby means, and because of that, you confirmed your promise, your inheritance. When it was weary, when it looked like maybe it wasn't going to happen. Listen, did God promise you an inheritance? Yes, he did. As a Christian, a New Testament saint, not an Old Testament person looking for Canaan, as a New Testament Christian, I have a promise of God. But I have to go through this stinking life. And there are times, what's going to happen? God says, wait. You're not there yet. I will send the plentiful rain. I'll keep you going. And when it's time to give it to you, I'll give it to you. Now look at this. In the book of Deuteronomy, God says, Moses wrote it down, when you get to the land of promise, you're going to want a king. Got no problem with that. King has to come from Judah. Okay, no problem with that. It's got to be the 10th generation or further from Pharez. No problem with that. Wait. I pick him. Well, we have a problem with that. Now, did God intend for the Jews to get to Canaan? Did he intend for them to have a king? What was the major stipulation of them getting to Canaan and having a king? God gets to pick him. So who did they pick? Saul. Not even in the line of Judah, much less the 10th from Pharez. Not even in the right line. And now they finally, time goes on, they get David. He is the 10th from Pharez. He is the tribe of Judah. He is in the promised land. And he is God's king. But he's not the one God was talking about in Deuteronomy. So David came and Solomon came and all they came and on they came and on they came and on they came. But God says, you've got wars and there's sicknesses and there's stuff and there's good and there's bad and all. But wait, I have an inheritance for you. And even right now, today, it hasn't happened yet. But back in Deuteronomy, who was the king God was talking about? Himself. I will sit on the throne. Wow. Now, you Gentiles, you non-Jews, would you like to be part of this kingdom? here I are, man. I want to be part. Woo! And now we've got to go through this crummy life. We've got to put up with stupidity, our own most of the time. And God says, hey, stick with me. I've got an inheritance for you. It's coming. Would you like to hear well done? Be a faithful servant in this cruddy life, and you will hear well done. Enter into the joy of the Lord. He takes care of the needy. Now, I don't know about you, but it's a good thing, if you will, every now and then, probably every day, at least once a day, get up in the morning, you're combing your hair, you're shaving, you're doing your makeup, whatever, and look straight in the mirror and look at yourself and say, I need something. I need God in my life. I don't have it all. I ain't all that wonderful and great. Have the proper attitude about who and what you really are. You are a sinner, hopefully saved by grace. I've got an inheritance. God is going to take care of this. I will faithfully serve him so that I will hear, well done. What's the greatest thing you can ever hear in your entire life? Well done. Because it comes from God. And not everybody's going to hear it. Doesn't mean you're not saved. There's going to be saved people in heaven for eternity that at the Bema do not hear well done. The well done is not a gift of God. It's a reward for faithful service. Salvation is given. Rewards are earned. Do you want to hear the reward of well done? Faithfully serve. All right. Look what it says here. Verse 10. Never got to verse 10 yet. Thy congregation hath dwelt therein into the land. Thou, O God, hast prepared of thy goodness for the poor. Now you go back and you read, how did Israel get into the promised land? God says, you go in and serve me, I will drive them out before you. Joshua led a military campaign for 7 years. And except for Ai, not one soldier is ever recorded that got killed. How would you like to be in that army? For 7 years, nobody gets killed. Only once. Why was that? Because of the sin of Achan. And God says, can't do that. If you're not going to put me first and obey me, I will not protect you. Read that account sometime. Joshua's going, Lord, you said. He said, wait, Joshua, you're only quoting the first part of what I said. God says this to Joshua. Why are you praying? Get up. But Lord, you said, quote all of me. You said you'd bless us, and keep going. If you just lost and somebody got killed, somebody has done the if. Take care of it. They took care of it. For 7 years, nobody died in the battle. What did God say? I will drive them out. 1 man will chase 100. 100 men will chase 1,000. They'll flee before you. Will God take care of your needs? Yeah. Number 5, God is patient with us. God takes care of our need of mercy and patience. Now let's be honest. Come on, husbands, I'm going to put this one on us now, okay? How often do you really need for your wife to be patient and merciful? Because a lot of times we're idiots, aren't we? Okay, let's use that illustration in our spiritual lives, men and women. How often do we stand before God and we have just done the dumbest thing we could have ever done, and we know God didn't want us to do it, but we did it anyway. Come on. I'm not going to ask for raise of hands and testimony time. But you know, you've done stuff that you know you weren't supposed to do, and you knew when you were doing it you shouldn't do it, and you did it anyway. Why? Because we're doofuses. So what do? Well, in your married life, what do? Husband to the wife, wife to the husband? I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. What can I do to make this right? By the way, let me put this in. You never go and say, I messed up. Here, this will make it right. No. What do you want me to do to make it right? You messed it up. What does he or she want you to do to make it up? And are you willing to do it? Because if you're not willing to do it, don't go in there and tell them you're sorry when you're not willing to do what they want you to do. Because you're not sorry. I'm stupid. You ought to forgive me because after all, you're stupid too. That doesn't work. Who biblically sets, we'll call it the price, the price of fixing it? Who gets to determine what it takes to fix the problem? The doer of the problem or the guy who got done wrong to? The guy who got done wrong to. The offended sets what has to happen, not the offender. You go to court. Did you? Yes, I did. Well, what do you think you should do to fix that? Is that how it works? No, the court says this is what you have to do. The accused, who's now guilty and admits it, doesn't get to say, oh, $1.50 ought to do it. Matter of fact, I think you ought to give me some more money. It doesn't work. God says, you're a sinner. I will tell you what has to happen. Somebody who's innocent has to pay the price. Come on, step on up here, innocent one. You don't have any? My son's innocent. Well, I wasn't that bad. I don't know why. The person who has been offended sets the price. And the price was set that none of us can pay. Then the offended said, I'll pay it for you. Okay, great, wonderful. Okay, now here's what you have to do. You have to admit that you can't pay it, and you have to admit that I will. Well, look in the mirror and understand you ain't all that. You're poor. You are needy. You don't have what you need. You can't buy, rent, find, or make what you need. And God said, I'll do it for you if you will admit I can do it. Okay. And then God lets us live. I'm 64 years old now. He's let me live for 64 years. In an attempt, as it were, to be right with Him. Not for salvation. I got saved when I was 4 years old. But for the last 60 years, God is saying, hey, Dave, you want to grow up a little bit? Come on. Come on. Dave, I want you to hear well done. That's my goal for you. Don't do that. Come this way. Come on, you want to hear well done? Will God meet my needs and be patient with me? He will with you too. God finds a way to take care of our need for mercy and patience and long-suffering and encouragement. All right. I didn't even read the verse yet. We're going to look at Romans chapter 2, verse 2 and following. We are sure that the judgment of God is what? According to truth. Against anyone that commits such things. You go back and read earlier. Sins. Now, do you think that the judgment on them that do such things, and you do the same things, you think you're going to escape judgment? You see God judge a sinner, and you're doing the same thing they did, and you think you're going to get away with it? Be sure your sin will find you out. Shakespeare said, the truth will out. Benny said, everybody gets their comeuppance. You got to watch The Mummy. Everybody gets a comeuppance. It all pays off. God says, hey, listen, I will be patient with you. I'll be kind to you. I'll be long-suffering with you. But you see how I judge people who rebel against me. If you rebel, do you think you're not going to get judged? Look at verse 4. Now he points specifically to anybody who might have a question. He's talking about you and me. He says, do you despise God's riches, the goodness, the patience, the long-suffering? Do you not understand that God has given you time? He's showing you patience so that you will repent? Because let's face it, if God zapped us the first time we sinned, we wouldn't make it to our first birthday. God sees our need for patience. Because let's face it, we're all as dumb as a box of hair. And God says, I'll be patient with you. I'll guide you. I'll encourage you. Man, God is good. Because if we all got what we deserved at any point in our life, 99.99999 to infinity, we'd have been zapped. Come on, let's do an inspection, and I'll go to number 6. Let's do a self-inspection. When was the last time you think you did something so right, good, and wonderful that you really impressed God? Come on, think of it. Come on. I'm sure you keep thinking. Keep thinking. Oh yeah, no, keep thinking. Your good deed that day got up in heaven and said, wow, I've never seen that before. God knows you need his patience. Number 6, God takes care of his own. Ain't God good? Now, how many of you have ever had a pet? Raise your hand. You've ever had a pet rock counts. You had a pet, okay? What did you do with that pet? Now, please don't take this to extreme. We are not God's pets. But when you own something, a pet, a car, a house, my 12-inch, 33-speed vinyl record collection, we take care of it, don't we? My records are on 2 sets of shelves, and I know, get your hands off of those. If you take it out, you put it back in. You keep your fingers off of it. Wear gloves. Come on, I'm goofy. Yeah, you've never done that. Maybe not with vinyl records, but anybody here, you've got Hummel figurines or guns, or I got those too. But you take care of them, don't you? Floyd and I go out shooting every now and then, which we haven't done in a while, so we got to do that again. And my son Ben, just to throw in, I bought a really nice gun. And I'll say it wrong, but it's a 556 223 or, yeah. It's a really nice gun. It's a bullpup. And my son Ben from Michigan came down and says, man, that's really nice. I haven't shot it. He said, you haven't shot this yet? I got nowhere to shoot it. He said, can I shoot it? I said, sure. He said, where around here? I don't know. So he took it home with him to Michigan. He's had it for 2 years. He's blown through several clips. This gun is really cool. I said, I want it back. But anyway, Floyd and I go shooting, and we're all done shooting. Floyd knows me well enough. He says to me almost every time, you want me to take your gun home and clean it? Because my gun probably won't get cleaned for 2 or 3 years. But oh, that's bad. I know it's bad. But Floyd, he knows enough about guns. He'll take care of mine. And I've learned if I want to go shooting, I go with Floyd. So, God takes care of his own. I like guns, but they're not special to me. But I do take care of my vinyl records. Okay, I'm a Baptist, and I'm not supposed to do this. I know. I'm sorry. I like the Beach Boys. I like the Letterman. I've got a Letterman album with all of their signatures on it. Don't you be touching that thing. Okay? And I take out my record player, and I put it on there, and I'll listen to, oh, My Little Deuce Coupe. Oh, that's really cool. Now, Floyd knows what that is. It's a car. There's a picture. And the picture on the front of the album cover isn't the car that they're singing about. I don't know. But I like this thing, okay? But you take care of it. So what does God say? I know who belongs to me. I know who are mine, and I take care of them. Ain't God good? He takes care of stuff. Look what it says here. All of that was introduction to 2 Thessalonians chapter 1, verse 4. So that we ourselves glory in you, in the churches of God, for your patience and faith in all your persecutions and all your tribulations that ye endure. We're glorifying, we're happy, we're praising, we're thankful, we're encouraging you because we know you got it rough. What's this talking about? Which is referring to the patience, the faith, and the endurance. that they're doing. Those things are the manifest token of the righteous judgment of God. The fact that you as a Christian are going through some good, righteous, hard times and enduring them is the obvious manifestation of God's righteous judgment. If you're not witnessing, experiencing, please don't take this to some weird extreme, but if you are not experiencing any tribulation or trouble because of your stand for God, you're either hanging around 100% Christians or you ain't standing for God enough for anybody to see it. Because this world does not like godliness. If you stand up for God, sooner or later somebody's going to come up to you and say, shut up, you holy roller. They're going to say something. If you've never heard that, you're either hanging around 100% Christians 100% of the time, or you are not standing for God enough out in the world. Your patience, your tribulation that you endure is the evidence of God's judgment. Okay. Look at the word. It's in pink there. That. Why is it that way? That ye may be counted worthy of the kingdom. Well done. Who does God say well done to? Faithful servants who took a stand and endured persecution. Does God take care of his own? Yeah. Well, if God really loved me, nothing bad would ever happen. I'll give you one illustration and we're done. I've given this before, so bear with me, those of you who heard it. I used to coach wrestling. My objective, and I used to tell the kids this all the time in wrestling practice, your 2.5 hours of wrestling practice here today, I want to be so hard and so difficult and so straining that when you get on the mat Thursday, you think the meet on Thursday is a breeze. You're going to go to an all-day tournament and wrestle maybe 5 times. If you make it to first place, you're going to wrestle 5 times Saturday. I want you to step on the mat and think, this is a cakewalk, because I had to go to practice with Vanaman. We won 5 state titles. Did it work? Yeah. Because I was a great wrestler? The best year I ever had, I was 12 wins and 14 losses. Took 4th in the league out of 4. I got a ribbon, pink. 4th place is a pink. I got a ribbon for participation. But guys, if you want to win a state title, you only weigh 136 pounds, come wrestle me. I was undefeated against 136 pounders. But they got good. Because if you can do something to me, you can take care of a 136 pounder who's on the mat with you. Does God let us have hardships in our lives because he knows what we're going to have to go through on Saturday? Does he see the battle that's coming up and say, let's get to the practice, let's get this taken care of? Bear with it, endure it, learn from it, live through it. I've got something to say to you when the season's all done. Well done. Enter in. Does God know who belongs to him? Does God take care of his own? Yeah. God is good. Seeing it is a righteous thing with God to recompense tribulation on all them that trouble you, and to you who are troubled, rest with us. When the Lord returns, in flaming vengeance he'll take it upon them that know not God, those who are opposed to him. Does God know who ain't his? What's their result? What's their end? So ain't God good? Takes care of all of our needs. Any comment or question? That's our lesson today. And this our 33rd anniversary. And if you'd like to go to eat with us, sign up on your way out if you haven't already. And I will call the restaurant and tell them there's 28 of us or 35 of us, whatever it is. And we'll go. So let's have a word of prayer. And then Floyd's going to take the offering. Dear Lord God, we thank you for your love for us. We thank you for your goodness, your patience, your kindness, meeting our needs. Help us, Lord, to serve you and honor you in all that we think, do, and say. For it's in the name of Christ I pray. Amen.